What's going on, traders? This is Andrew O'Connell with Pristine Capital coming at you with yet another market recap video. It is April 7th, 2021. Please hit the like button on this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy this content, and I will continue to make it for you. Today we're going to talk about the price action in the indices. We'll go under the hood and check out our sectors and style factors like we always do. And there's actually a big disparity between what was going on in the headline indices today and then what was going on under the hood. We're going to talk about some of my trades for the day, and we'll wrap up with some options order flow. Before we jump in, quick risk disclaimer. Nothing in this video should be construed as investment advice or recommendations. Please follow your own trading plan and your own risk parameters. And last but not least, do not YOLO your entire account into any one of my trades. All right, let's jump right into it. First things first, some quick housekeeping items for Pristine Capital members. So tonight I am going to be doing the rebalancing of the trend portfolio. So last rebalance was actually really clutch timing where I got some more of those FANG names in, got some of the small cap exposure out of the portfolio. There are a few more changes that I want to make, and I'm super excited about those. So I'm going to be making those tonight, and I'll be posting those changes in our Discord. Another thing for members, this is something that I used to do at my old outfit where we would do afternoon webinars, and I'm going to be introducing that for Pristine Capital members. So we're going to start off with Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 1 p.m. We'll see if it turns into something where it's every day or what the schedule is going to look like. But for now, we're going to start with those 3 days. And really, it's going to be about a half hour to an hour that is dedicated to going through the markets, while the markets are actually open. And more importantly, talking about strategy, going through the holdings in my trading account. We can even talk about the holdings in the trend portfolio as well. And really just digging more into like Q&A, going through different tickers, that sort of thing. If you're interested in that and you're not a member, you can go to pristinecapital.net. Feel free to sign up and join us. All right. So with that being said, let's jump into the good stuff here. So we have the S&P 500 finishing up 0.12% today. We had the NASDAQ QQQ finishing up 0.24% today. Then we had a bloodbath in the small caps. This has happened a couple times over the past few months where these small caps just get absolutely destroyed. We had one of those days today. And then we have the Dow Jones, which finished out flat for the session. So if we look at our S&P 500, these are our ES futures. You can see they've had a really crazy run over the past maybe 10 or so trading sessions, and now they're just consolidating at the highs here. So you can see this 5-day exponential moving average has essentially caught up to price. And we are really not getting that much in the way of pullbacks in the S&P 500, which is a good thing. I would keep in mind we are getting a little bit extended from that monthly value area and from this 20-day simple moving average as well. But for now, price continues to move higher. If we pull up our NASDAQ, pull up these NQ futures, you can see similar dynamic going on here where we've had a nice run and we're consolidating. The difference is for the Qs, we have not yet taken out the prior all-time highs. You can see we have this level at around 13,900. You can see with the Qs, we were at about 13,600 right now. But again, we're riding that 5-day exponential moving average higher and really just moving sideways. The IWM, this is a completely different picture. These are the small cap stocks. And the small cap stocks I mentioned a couple times in these videos, they were really leading us for months and months on end following the election and following the coronavirus vaccine. Now they're really starting to show weakness. And I added some puts on for the small caps today because, this is just not a good look. So you can see, I'm not really a big, head and shoulders pattern person, really. But you can see, this is essentially like a textbook head and shoulders here. But more important than that, actually way more important than that, you can see really all this is we've just made a lower high within the trend. And you can see we were clearly rejected at this monthly value area high. And now, as of today, we've lost the 20-day simple moving average. We've lost the 50-day as well. And we actually dipped below this monthly point of control. So yeah, the trend just doesn't look strong in the small caps. And we'll have to see how this plays out. But yeah, definitely not a good picture here. And then if we pull up our Dow Jones, so you can see with the Dow Jones, we have, really just another day of sideways price action. Dow Jones continues to trend higher. It's riding these key moving averages up. And pretty much, pretty boring day for the Dow Jones. So now let's jump in. We'll take a look under the hood. And what you'll see is, S&P 500 looked pretty strong. So did the NASDAQ. But what you'll see is the market overall was not very strong today. So you can see the breadth definitely got a little bit better towards the end of the day, which is good. But this is definitely mixed breadth at best. So you can see where we really had strength. Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Google, Amazon, Facebook, those names really held the market up today. Tesla, which is essentially a bellwether for these high growth, high valuation names, down over 3%. And a lot of these areas were just pretty weak. Really a lot of the high growth areas of the market, and then again, those small caps, were very weak. So on the surface, it's like, okay, market's up today. But for the most part, unless you are just like an index investor or maybe like you're hugging these mega caps really tightly, which is awesome. For most people, I think they would look at their portfolio and it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, great day in the market. Because most of these holdings, they were red on the day. Yeah, and if we look at our sector map, you can see exactly what I'm talking about here. So pretty much red across the board. And this blockchain ETF, which is in our top momentum slot, it's probably going to fall out of that shortly. But you can see it was down over 4.5% today. So a huge move. But that sector, it is very highly volatile. And then you can see some other areas, emerging markets really suffered. These Chinese technology names, you can see KWEB down 3.91%. And really the only sectors that remained buoyant were this technology ETF XLK, this mobile payments ETF, European financials, and financials. See a lot of red across the screen today. And if we look at our style factors, you'll see the same thing. So we had growth, which was positive for the day, and international value. Every other style factor was down. If you look at the cyclicals, they were down in a major way, down 1.16%. I talked about this maybe a week or two ago about the fading out of this recovery trade and how now we're going to start to see like peak economic cycle, peak economic growth. Well, for most investors, they're trying to figure out what is the trend going to look like, 6 to 12 months into the future. So now that we are in this period, April, May, June of like, all right, this is the best economic data we're ever going to get because we're going up against these comparisons from when we're under lockdown. Now we're starting to see these institutional players, they're starting to unload this exposure. So the cyclicals, down in a big way today. And a lot of those recovery names, down as well. I just want to really quick take a look at this cyclicals ETF. This is it's actually the small cap value. Yeah, let's see here. So if we look at IWN, at one point, a couple weeks ago, this thing was just flying high. And yeah, you can see it made that incredible high. This is when everyone was like, oh my gosh, value names, value. Had a big correction, and now you can see it looks like it made a lower high. I'm noticing that with a lot of names, similar to the small caps that also made this lower high. A lot of times that just tells you, hey, this trend is getting a little bit weaker. Sure, there were dip buyers that come in once it really, takes a hit, but there isn't that same willingness to just keep bidding this, higher and higher like we had before. It's definitely noteworthy. Well, let's take a look. We'll pull up some of my trades for the day. Let me pull these over from our Discord. Let me see here. Okay, there we go. All right. So coming into today's session in the morning, it was like, all right, let's see if we get some sort of dip. We'll see what the river brings, that sort of thing. We had a small dip in the morning. That dip was bought, and it really looked like, oh my gosh, this could be like a really powerful day for the markets, a really nice move. So I actually added some exposures in the morning. And then as the first hour of the trading session, carried on, the breadth really started to come out of the market. And that's where I was like, okay, this could take a completely different turn. That's where I started really looking at these small caps. I took some of these exposures off, etc. So yeah, in the morning I got long some SE common shares for 248.19. SE is one that I've been watching for a while now, and this one looks pretty strong compared to its peer group. SE did not close on the highs, but I still think this is a pretty decent close considering what a lot of these other high growth, high valuation names did. Finished down 0.73%, but it is still above all these key moving averages. We just recently had this crossover of the 5-day exponential moving average from the 20-day. So I kept this one in the portfolio because this is definitely one that I want to hold moving forward. So the other thing, I stopped out of a short in Medallia, scratched that one, got out, set a stop order to take me out. Hey, if it goes back to my entry price, just get out. So I scratched that. I got long some Pub M shares because it looked like, oh my gosh, this thing's breaking out in the morning for 56.90. And I ended up closing those out for, a very small winner. Closed those out for $57. Because, yeah, Pub M, in the morning it was like, oh my gosh, we're going to get a powerful breakout here. But it sort of faded throughout the day. And you can see that it ended up closing at 56.31. Still not a bad close either. This is probably one that I'll look at tomorrow, but just didn't really have any power to follow through. Another one that really looked like it could have broken out today but failed was Digital Turbine. So I got long some shares here, right here, expecting that breakout for about $87, and this thing turned around in a major way. So one thing that actually plagued me in my trading for March and February was, I would enter a stock where the candle looked really strong. The candle would, turn the exact opposite way from what I was expecting, and I would stay in the trade. And that was one of the things when I was looking through my results. I was like, moving forward, if the candle turns ugly, just get out. So that's what I did with Digital Turbine. I had to pivot. I stopped out of Digital Turbine. I had paid for this one, $87.47. I stopped out for $83.45. Yeah, so I said big sellers came out in this name. And that's the thing, like when I get something wrong, I just want to stop out, and that's about it. Another one, VUZI. This one had a really nice move early on in the session. Closed this one out for a winner. I had paid $27.99. Closed this one out for $29.91. VUZI is definitely a name that I want to continue to watch. You can see here, it continues to climb. And this one, you can see it made a higher high today, but it ended up wicking out as these small cap names are just really under pressure. So VUZI is definitely a name I want to keep watching. It's very volatile though. So that's the thing with these small cap names. If you enter at the wrong moment, like let's say, you were trying to chase the breakout, you entered at 31.20. Say if it comes back on you and you're like, you know what, I'm going to stay in. The risk is these small cap names, they're so high beta. Let's say if we do get some sort of, pullback in the market, you can expect VUZI to pull back, to this 23.90 level, which is the 20-day simple moving average, or even the 50-day moving average like it did in the past. So you either have to be sized appropriately where, hey, I can sit through the volatility, or you just need to make sure that you're managing your risk, your entries are at proper buy points, that sort of thing. See, I took this one off for a winner. Not too, definitely wicked out here, but still looking okay. And then the last trade that I did, I got long some Twitter common stock. And this was towards the end of the trading session. Twitter, you can see here, this is another one where, this one, we had a big pullback. This one is sort of basing and just really tight price action for about a week. And now we're starting to break out here. So you can see today we crossed above this monthly point of control, and now we're above all those key moving averages. Twitter is definitely a name that I want to try to stick with for more of an intermediate term swing. This market has been so choppy. Really, the style that I like to use with my trading is buying these stocks and really sticking with them for as long as the trend will last. Whether that's a month, 2 months, 3 months, I want to stay in these names very long. It's just this market has been so choppy that for me, I'm like, if I have a small loser or even a small winner, I either want to be stopping out of the trade or taking some sort of target. But Twitter, I do think, can really get going. And a lot of these social media names, are very strong today. So that is Twitter. For some options trading today, stopped out of some financials puts this morning. I tried those May puts. Stopped out for 62 cents. I paid $1.33. For plug, closed these out for a scratch. These were some puts I had on. Took some IWM puts as the index started to roll over. And I was able to identify this pretty early on in the day, like something doesn't look right. I put these on very shortly after I stopped out of some of the trades I put on in the morning. And then I actually, in addition, I put on a put calendar spread in IWM. So I got long the May 212 strike puts, which are, out of the money. And then I shorted the April 16th 212 strike puts, put this structure on for $3.28. So yeah, I was like, out of all these indices, really the problem area I'm seeing is these small caps. And what it looks like is these institutions or whoever is trading, they're really panicking out of the small caps and panicking into the mega cap FANG names. So I want to make sure that I'm in line with that trend. So I had both of those on. I also added a put butterfly in Boeing. And Boeing actually looks pretty ugly here. So this is another interesting one. So Boeing, you can see here, it's below this monthly value area high. It failed, pretty early on and made a lower high here. It's below this monthly point of control, and it closed below the 5-day EMA and just under this 20-day simple moving average. So my butterfly is the 260 by 245 by 230 butterfly. And it is really targeting a move to the bottom of this weekly value area. So I do think if we see some continued weakness in some of these, value trades, recovery names, etc., definitely could see Boeing testing this value area low here at about 248. So yeah, put that one on as more of like a defensive trade in case there is some weakness in the market. I had 2 allocations of puts for IWM. So I stopped out of those for about a penny winner. The ones I put on early in the morning, and I left on that calendar spread. So one thing I want to do heading into options expiration is I like having, some short options in my portfolio, and I like to have it where if the market kind of does nothing, I'm collecting some theta decay. So yeah, with those IWM puts, left on the calendar spread, and I took off just the naked puts. And then towards the end of the day, I put on this XLK diagonal call spread. I got long the May 15th 138 strike call. and I shorted the April 16th 142 strike call. So one thing that I noticed is XLK is super strong right now. It's in a really nice trend here. And you can see, yeah, it's pretty much out to the all-time highs. Looks really nice, and you can see it's consolidating at those highs. I do have a target level here at about 141.25, and my thesis is the S&P 500, by this option's expiration, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to hit the 4,100 level on SPX. And my line of thinking is, if the SPX, advances, hits 4,100, it's most likely going to be led by these names right here, just having some continued strength. The Microsofts, Facebook, really the FANG names. And what you can see from today is if those FANG names are strong, they can carry the indices higher. They don't really need much help from the other market constituents because these make up such a big part of the index. The XLK ETF really just isolates those companies specifically. So if we look here, XLK, we can pull up these holdings. So if you look at these holdings, Apple, Microsoft, Visa, Nvidia, MasterCard, PayPal, Intel, Adobe, Salesforce, Broadcom. So yeah, this is definitely like, you're getting the exposure to those mega cap names. So yeah, got long the diagonal call spread in XLK. And that we'll see if we can get, a push higher into this 140 level for OPEX. That about does it for my trades for the day. Let's also take a look here at this options order flow. So if we look, one thing that really sticks out to me, and this is why once I started seeing weakness and the breadth deteriorating, I was like, let me pull back some of these longs, because I'm seeing, just a lot of bullishness in this options order flow, now that the market's already had a pretty big advance. So like you'll see SPY calls, Facebook, Qs, more Facebook, Microsoft, Nvidia, Apple. Really the only names they were going for today were those mega cap tech names. You can see there's only a few puts that came down. We had some small caps which came down after the close, after they already had their big move to the downside. That's about it. There was one Q's puts player, but yeah, for the most part, this is all pretty bullish. So that's why I was like, yeah, this setup, with how many calls are being purchased in comparison to puts, I was like, if I start to see the breadth coming off, let me just scale out of some of these things I tried adding. And that's why I added some of those short exposures as well, just to hedge some of the weaker areas of the market. One that's sticking out to me a little bit is this Expedia. This is a name that I traded, so many times in 2020 and 2021. This one I've traded every time at the upside. And Expedia, you can see the chart looks very similar to Boeing, where it made this nice, essentially like a blow-off high right here at 185, had a deep pullback, and then just made a lower high. So there was this dip buyer, and they actually got a really good trade location on those calls. They essentially bought them on the lows of the day. But we'll have to see. Expedia trend looks like it's getting a little bit weaker, but this is a name that I like to play to the upside. So this is definitely a name I'll be watching for the next couple days here. But that about does it for this market recap video. Hope you all had an awesome trading day, and I will see you all in the pre-market session tomorrow.